Right now, as you listen to these words, somewhere in the world, a tap is running dry for the last time. A well that has sustained generations is gasping its final drops. A reservoir that once stretched beyond the horizon is now nothing but cracked earth and the ghosts of what used to be. This isn't some distant future. This is happening today. And if current trends continue, what's coming next could rewrite the very fabric of human civilization. You see, scientists warn we may be living a dangerous illusion. We've convinced ourselves that water is infinite, renewable, always there when we turn the handle. But here's what the data suggests: we could be burning through our planet's freshwater reserves faster than nature can replenish them. And if that's true, the clock isn't just ticking, it's screaming. Picture this theoretical scenario: it's 2034. You wake up in what used to be Phoenix, Arizona. The thermometer reads 127 degrees Fahrenheit, again. In this imagined world, you've got 15 minutes of water allocated for your entire household today. 15 minutes. Not per person. Total. Your neighbor Sarah hasn't showered in 6 days. The Johnson family down the street sold their car last month to buy black market water containers. The kids don't play outside anymore, not because of the heat, but because sweating has become a luxury no one can afford. This scenario isn't inevitable, but some experts argue it represents the mathematical trajectory we're racing toward. In Cape Town, they called it Day Zero, the day the taps would run completely dry. For a million people, staring into the abyss of empty reservoirs. They avoided it, barely, through extreme rationing and sheer luck. But Cape Town was just the warning shot. Chennai, India, 6 million people. Day Zero hit them in 2019. The reservoirs dried up completely. People fought in the streets over water truck deliveries. Hospitals shut down. The city nearly collapsed. Now imagine that scenario, but what if it went global? What if it wasn't just one city, but every city? So how might we get there? How could we potentially turn the most abundant resource on our planet into the rarest? The theory is as simple as it is concerning. Some scientists believe we may be breaking the water cycle itself. For thousands of years, the equation was balanced. Rain fell, rivers flowed, underground aquifers recharged naturally over decades and centuries. But then we changed everything. We started pumping groundwater faster than it could refill. In California's Central Valley, the land is literally sinking, dropping by nearly a foot per year in some places, because we've sucked the underground reservoirs dry. The Ogallala Aquifer, which supplies water to 8 U.S. states, is disappearing. At current rates, some projections suggest it could be depleted within our lifetime. We dammed the rivers, disrupting the natural flow that had sustained ecosystems for millions of years. We paved over wetlands, eliminated the sponges that absorbed and stored water naturally. We turned forests into deserts and deserts into cities that arguably shouldn't exist. And then we may have cranked up the heat. Climate change isn't just making things warmer, many scientists warn it could be weaponizing the weather itself. Droughts that used to last months now stretch for years. Rainfall patterns that agricultural civilizations have depended on for 10,000 years are shifting. The snow that once provided gradual, steady water supplies throughout the year now arrives as violent floods or doesn't arrive at all. But here's what makes it truly concerning: the trend appears to be accelerating. Right now, over 2 billion people lack access to clean water at home. That's 1 in 4 humans on this planet. But according to UN projections, that could be just the beginning. By 2030, just 6 years from now, water demand could exceed supply by 40% globally. If these projections prove accurate, we might need 40% more water than the planet can provide. The theoretical ripple effects wouldn't be gradual. They could be catastrophic. Food production might collapse first. It takes 1,800 gallons of water to produce a single pound of beef. 39 gallons for a pound of vegetables. In a water-scarce world, when the water runs out, the food follows. The UN estimates that water scarcity could displace 700 million people by 2030. 700 million climate refugees, all potentially searching for the same thing: a drink of clean water. And when that many people start moving, when nations start fighting over rivers and lakes, when the fundamental resource for human survival becomes a weapon, wars have been fought over oil, over land, over ideology. But water wars could be different. They might be fights for survival itself, and some experts warn they're coming faster than anyone wants to admit. Here's one possible scenario of how it might start: a major drought hits the American Southwest. Lake Mead, already at historic lows, drops below critical levels. The Hoover Dam can no longer generate power. Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles begin emergency water rationing. Mexico's reservoirs, already stressed, can't provide backup. Millions might begin migrating north and east, potentially creating the largest internal displacement in American history. But the stress could spread. California's agricultural output might plummet. Food prices could spike nationwide, then globally. Other countries, already struggling with their own water crises, might stop exporting grain to keep their own populations fed. In this theoretical scenario, India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers, watch the Indus River system fail. The treaty that has managed water sharing for decades collapses with it. Tensions could escalate. Troops might mass at borders. The world would hold its breath. In sub-Saharan Africa, pastoral communities that have survived for centuries could begin the final migration toward whatever water remains. But in this imagined future, there's nowhere left to go. The last wells are guarded. The last rivers are fought over. This isn't a prediction, it's a warning of what systems failure cascading across the planet might look like. Let me take you to that theoretical moment. The moment when it's not academic anymore. Imagine you're in a major city, pick one, it doesn't matter. The government has just announced Stage 5 water restrictions. That means no running water for residential use. Emergency supplies only. The stores emptied of bottled water weeks ago. The black market prices have made water more expensive than gasoline. Your neighbors, people you've known for years, eye your garden hose with suspicious calculation. The schools have closed, not because of the heat, but because there's no water for bathrooms or drinking fountains. Hospitals are operating on emergency reserves, choosing who gets the dialysis treatments, who gets the surgeries that require sterile water. The swimming pools, those glittering symbols of abundance, are empty monuments to what we used to take for granted. The golf courses are brown wastelands. The fountains are silent. And still, the temperature climbs. In this scenario, you might realize that every shower you ever took, every glass of water you ever drank without thinking, every time you let the tap run while brushing your teeth, those weren't just moments of consumption. They were acts of incredible privilege that you never recognized until they were gone. But here's what some scientists find most concerning. Even now, as warning signs flash around us, we continue making choices that could worsen the crisis. Every day, we pump more groundwater than nature can replace. Every day, we emit more greenhouse gases that potentially intensify droughts and disrupt weather patterns. Every day, we build more cities in deserts, plant more lawns in wastelands, and hope that technology will save us. But technology can't create water. It can only move it around, clean it up, or help us use it more efficiently. And even our best technologies, desalination plants that turn seawater into drinking water, require enormous amounts of energy. If current trends continue, we might not just be running out of water. We could be running out of time to prevent a collapse that might unravel human civilization itself. The feedback loops could already be locked in. The ice caps that reflect sunlight back to space are melting, potentially causing more heat absorption and faster melting. The forests that help generate rainfall are burning, creating deserts that generate no rain at all. The aquifers we're emptying took thousands of years to fill and would take thousands more to refill, if they ever could. Some scientists warn we may have crossed the line from crisis to potential catastrophe. The question now isn't whether this will happen. It's whether we can change course before we find out. So what might happen when a species that evolved around water-rich environments suddenly finds itself in a water-poor world? History gives us clues. The Maya, the Anasazi, the Khmer Empire, civilizations that thrived for centuries before water scarcity contributed to their decline. But those were regional collapses. This time, the risk could be global, and there might be nowhere to run. The mathematics are simple and potentially unforgiving. 7 billion people need water to survive. The renewable freshwater supply is fixed and, according to many projections, shrinking. Population is growing. Consumption is increasing. Climate change could be accelerating the crisis. If you do the math under current trends, the equation doesn't balance. But here's what makes this moment different from every other existential risk in human history: we can see it coming. We have satellites measuring every reservoir, sensors monitoring every aquifer, models predicting every trend. We know exactly what might be happening. We can calculate where it could be leading. And yet we're still pouring water onto our lawns, filling our pools, and acting as though tomorrow will look like today. The warning signs aren't subtle anymore. They're screaming at us from every dried lakebed, every empty well, every climate refugee fleeing the expanding deserts. This could be our last call for water. Not in some distant future, not for our grandchildren, but for us. If projections prove accurate, the people alive right now might witness the transformation of human civilization by water scarcity. Some of you listening to this could live through the day when your own taps run dry. The children being born today might inherit a world where water is the most precious commodity on earth. Where wars are fought not over oil or territory, but over access to rivers and lakes. Where the symbol of ultimate wealth isn't gold or diamonds, but a swimming pool full of clean water. And if this scenario unfolds, the most haunting part might be that we saw it coming. We had every tool, every technology, every piece of knowledge we needed to prevent this catastrophe. We just chose not to act decisively enough. We chose short-term comfort over long-term sustainability. We chose convenience over conservation. We chose to believe that someone else, somewhere else, would solve the problem for us. But there is no someone else. There is no somewhere else. There's only us, right now, facing the theoretical consequences of treating the most essential element of life like it would last forever. If the models are right, the taps could be running dry. The reservoirs could be emptying. The future could be arriving faster than we ever imagined. And in that possible future, when the last drop falls and the final reservoir runs empty, the question won't be whether we could have known this was coming. The question will be, knowing everything we knew, understanding every warning we received, why didn't we change course when we still had the chance?